I woke up to the silence. Usually in the morning, the house is filled with sounds, the sound of a kettle, her husband's muffled footsteps in the hallway, the thud of spoons on plates. But today it was different. I lay staring at the ceiling and listened. The silence seemed thick, sticky, like a thick fog that wouldn't let me breathe. I turned 38 today. I turned my head to the phone. No messages, no missed calls. The screen glowed with a steady, indifferent light, reflecting only my own face, pale, with slight traces of sleep. I got out of bed and went into the living room. My husband, Alexei, was already going to work. He was standing in front of the mirror, tying his tie. I stood in the doorway, waiting. He glanced at me briefly. "Oh, yeah, happy birthday," he said casually. I smiled, waiting for him to add something else. Maybe a hug, maybe a kiss, or at least hold her gaze. But no, he straightened his tie, took the keys from the table and left without even waiting for my reply. I was left standing in an empty room. I had breakfast alone. I opened the refrigerator, it was almost empty inside. In the evening, Alexei must have been planning to have dinner at a restaurant again, and not at home. I poured myself some tea, but it turned out to be bitter. Mom usually called first. She always claimed that her daughter's birthday was her holiday too. "You're my best job," she used to say. But today the phone was silent. I picked it up, checked the connection, and refreshed the screen. Nothing. "Okay," I muttered to myself. I decided that Mom was just busy. She might call back later. Maybe she has a busy morning. But where is my sister, then, or other relatives? I looked at my watch. Time passed, but nothing changed. On social media, there are only a few on-duty greetings from friends who were reminded of the notifications. None of the relatives even bothered to leave a comment. Something in me snapped. I've always done my best for them. She always remembered their birthdays, took care of them, called them, and asked about their affairs. But as soon as I was in their place, there was silence. I looked at the phone again. Maybe I should write it myself. Should I call? No. I gritted my teeth and put the phone away. I won't bother anyone today. Today I'm just going to see if someone remembers me without reminders. By noon, a new message appeared on the screen. "Happy birthday, Marina," my mother wrote. No emoticons, without warm words, no questions asked. How am I? How am I doing? I closed the chat. Another message followed, from my sister. "Oh, you have a doctor. Congratulations. Have a nice day." I stared at the screen, feeling my fingers curl into a fist. Oh, she had forgotten. I suddenly remembered how I organized a whole party for her last year, how she went through dozens of stores in search of a gift that she would really like, how I spent nights planning a surprise. And she didn't even remember my day. Well, that's good. Very good. I put the phone away without answering. I didn't feel sad anymore. Now it was something else, something slow, dark, and very, very cold. I spent the whole day waiting. They can still fix the situation. Alexei could come in the evening with flowers. His mother could call and say kind words. His sister could come, as if nothing had happened, with a gift. I didn't give up hope. But with every minute, with every glance at the phone, that hope was fading. I tried to distract myself by turning on a movie, but I couldn't concentrate. I scrolled through my social media feed, but I just got annoyed. People posted photos of their perfect family evenings, dinners with friends, and congratulations. I have an emptiness. By the evening, I stopped deceiving myself. No one will come. I was sitting at the kitchen table, looking at a cake I bought myself. Small, for one candle. I lit it, looked at the flame. 38 years old. At the age of 38, I realized that I simply wasn't in this house. I am a shadow, a ghost that is convenient to use as long as it is silent. And if I disappear, they won't even notice. The door slammed, Alexei returned. I quickly wiped my tears and straightened up. Maybe he remembered after all? Maybe in his hands. No. No flowers. No gift package. He came in with a tired face, kicked off his shoes and walked into the living room without looking at me. "Have you had dinner yet?" he asked. "No," I replied. "Let's order something. That's all." I clenched my fists under the table to keep myself from losing my temper. "You didn't even ask me how my day was," I said. Alexei looked at me in surprise, as if he had seen me for the first time. Did something special happen? I felt like something was breaking inside of me. "Today is my birthday." There was silence. His face froze for a second. I saw something like fear in his eyes. And then, relief. "Really? Really? I'm sorry. It completely slipped my mind. I had a blockage at work today." He grinned as if it was some kind of ridiculous accident. "Look, I'll fix it, okay? We'll go out tomorrow. I'll buy you something." He came up to me, patted me on the shoulder. "Don't be offended. Don't be offended." I looked at him, and I suddenly felt so disgusted that I wanted to get up and go out. He doesn't give a damn. My disappointment, my pain, is a small thing for him, a stupidity that can be made up for with empty words. I took a deep breath, exhaled. "There's no need to fix anything," I said calmly. Alexei shrugged his shoulders, threw the phone on the sofa and went into the shower. I remained sitting at the table, staring at the extinguished candle. That's enough. They've forgotten about me, now it's my turn to forget about them. That night, I couldn't sleep for a long time. Scenes from the past replayed in my head, how my mother punished me as a child for what I didn't do, how my sister took advantage of my kindness, how Alexei lied to my face, thinking that I didn't notice anything. I've been forgiving for too long. I've been trying to earn their love for too long. But you can't earn love, can you? So it's time to stop trying. I was lying in the dark, and at some point a smile appeared on my lips. A warm, nasty smile. If they think I'm a ghost, it's time to show them what a ghost can do. I got up earlier than usual this morning. I felt a strange lightness, as if I had thrown off something heavy. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't trying to figure out how to please others. I didn't think what to say to be noticed. Now I needed something else. I sat down at the table, opened my notebook and started writing. Plan. I didn't want to just break off the relationship with them. No, that would be too easy. They would have been surprised. Maybe they would have discussed me for a couple of days, and then just continued to live as if I had never existed. I couldn't let them do that. Each of them betrayed me once, Mom, sister, Alexei, and each of them had their own weaknesses. I knew their fears, their secrets, something they carefully hid from others. Now I was going to use it. First, Alexei. I've long suspected that he has someone else. His delays at work, his lack of interest in me, the phone he never left without a password. But I didn't need any guesses. I needed the facts. I knew he always took a shower in the morning before leaving. He leaves his phone on the bedside table. I went into the bathroom, turned on the water in the sink so he wouldn't hear, and returned to the bedroom. The phone was where I expected it to be. Password, 6 digits. I've noticed for a long time how he types it automatically, and I suspected that this was his mother's date of birth. I entered 060759. The screen has unlocked. For the next 10 minutes, I quickly scrolled through his correspondence. I found what I was looking for almost immediately. Messages from someone named Olga, not just working conversations, but something much more personal. Yesterday was great. When will you tell her you're leaving? I'm tired of being in second place. I wasn't shaking with anger. I didn't feel any pain, just a strange, quiet satisfaction. Now I had a real reason to do what I had wanted to do for a long time. I sent myself all the messages and photos. then carefully returned the phone to its place and went into the kitchen, as if nothing had happened. When Alexei came out of the shower, I was already drinking coffee. "You're in no hurry to get to work today," I said with a slight smile. He glanced at his watch. "The weather is disgusting. The mood is too." "Oh, honey, if you only knew how much your mood is going to deteriorate very soon. Maybe we can go out tonight," he suddenly suggested. I almost laughed. "No, I have my own plans." "Ah, well, okay." He picked up the phone, looked at the screen, and frowned. Apparently, he received a new message from Olga. I watched as he quickly typed in the answer and grabbed his jacket. "That's it, I'm going." "Have a nice day," I replied with a smile. When the door closed behind him, I picked up my phone and started texting. The addressee was Olga. "Hey, I think you'll be interested to know who your lover spent last weekend with. Photos are attached." I clicked send. Now all that remained was to wait. "The message has been sent." I put my phone down on the table and sat across from him, staring at the screen. Olga could have answered right away. She could have ignored. She could have suspected nothing. But I've known women like her. She won't stay away. 10 minutes have passed. The phone buzzed. "What is it?" I smiled. "Something you should know. He's lying to you the same way he lied to me." A few more minutes passed, then another message. "Who are you?" I didn't answer, let her guess for herself. Now I just had to wait. In the evening, Alexei returned from work gloomy, without even looking at me. "Is something wrong?" I asked in my most harmless voice. "No," he said shortly, and went into the bedroom. I heard him throw his bag on the bed, then the sound of his phone turning on, and, of course, the bell rang. "Alia, calm down. What kind of nonsense is this? Who sent you this anyway?" I continued to sit in the living room, sipping tea. The conversation dragged on. "I don't know what you're talking about." Alexei began to raise his voice. "What other photos? This is someone's stupid joke." I heard him abruptly pacing the room, as his voice became sharper and sharper. "Olga, stop being hysterical. Do you seriously believe some anonymous letter? Who is it anyway?" A sudden pause. "Wait. Is this Marina?" I almost laughed. He figured it out after all. I went to the bedroom, leaned on the door frame. Alexei stood in the middle of the room, clutching the phone in his hand. His face was red with anger. "Marina, are you really?" he started, but I interrupted him. "Were you going to go to her?" He was silent. "Have you been lying to me all this time?" "It's none of your business," he said. I nodded. "You're right, it's not mine anymore." I turned around and went out into the hallway. "Where are you going?" His voice rang out. "Walking." I heard him curse, but he didn't follow me. When I closed the door behind me, I felt a little satisfied. He lied to me. He was trying to use me. But now I've let him feel what it's like to lose control. And that was only the first blow. I didn't come home right away that night. I wandered the streets, thinking I needed more, less emotion, more action. With every step I took, I felt a growing sense that I was no longer just an observer in my life. I'm a gambler. And my next move was already ready a long time ago. My sister, Alia, has always been a mystery to me. She was younger than me, but she always got more attention, more love from our mother. I've felt it since I was a kid. Mom always said that she was more creative and bright, and I was too serious and reasonable. Alia could joke, she could be untidy, but she was always forgiven, and I've always tried to be perfect. But that's not the only reason I decided to act. My sister was in debt. I knew about this because I overheard a conversation between her and one of her acquaintances. Back then, She said she would not be able to pay the debt unless she received help from someone in her family. But Mom was busy with her own business, and I was absorbed in my own problems. I didn't interfere. But now I've decided to use it. A few days later, I invited Alia for a cup of coffee. She looked as bright as ever, feigning happiness, as if her life was one continuous holiday. There was always this fake gleam in her eye, which she used to hide her fears. We met in a cafe, and I, as usual, started a conversation about trifles, but at some point I turned the topic to money. You know, I started thinking about investing a little bit. Maybe I'll discover something of my own. You always say you know how to make money, right? She laughed merrily. Yes, but only wisely. You know, debts are something I don't mess with. It's still not my game. I almost gave myself away, but I managed to hide my emotions. Are you sure you don't have any debts? Because I've heard of such things. There could be trouble. I understand that this may be difficult to say, but... Her face paled. Did you hear everything? I looked into her eyes, calmly continuing to drink my coffee. That's it. I know about your card, about your overdue payments. I know how you negotiated partial payments with one of the collectors, but you couldn't fulfill the conditions, so you didn't tell me about it, even though I could have helped. Her eyes darted around. She was nervously playing with the cup. It's not what you think it is. I'll figure it out. I promise. Just, don't say anything to Mom. She's so worried. I smiled. Don't worry about it. I'll help you, but not for free. What do you want? Her voice cracked. You'll find out soon enough, and let's not play little games. I'll get what I need, and you'll get your freedom from debt. That's what you want, isn't it? She stopped talking, but I could see that she was ready to agree. At first, she tried to hide, but she realized that she could no longer manipulate. At some point, her pride gave way. Okay, you've won. What do you need? I was in no hurry to answer. My goal was achieved. She couldn't hide her weakness now, and now that I knew her secret, I could use it to arrange her life in my own way. Wait a bit, and you'll understand everything. I stood up, not giving her time to say anything. She picked up her bag and slowly headed for the exit. Her gaze followed me, and I could feel the anxiety growing in her soul. She was part of the game now, and soon she would realize that her simple manipulations would no longer work. I smiled, feeling the taste of victory. It took a few days before I met my mom again. Time passed, but I didn't lose my concentration. Alia was already on the hook, and now I had to deal with my mother. Mom has always been a figure for me, around which all my feelings revolved, from love to disappointment. She always said that I had to be the perfect daughter to be worthy of her love, but there were too many moments in my life when I felt like I was just her shadow. There wasn't a single important event where she would be around if there wasn't a need. There have been too many empty promises and unfulfilled words in my life. I knew there were ulterior motives behind her caring mother's mask. Mom wasn't who she seemed. I invited her into my house. We were sitting in the living room, having a cup of tea, and, as always, we were talking about this and that. She was always so good at making sure that the conversation never touched on the important stuff. But I wasn't going to stall for time. You knew that, didn't you? About Alia? About her debts? Mom froze. Her gaze darkened, and her face froze. She took a sip of tea, but her hands trembled slightly. How did you know? Her voice was too quiet. I didn't say anything, just looked at her. You've always wanted to be perfect for her, but you know she'll never give back what you give her, Mom. She doesn't respect you. She doesn't appreciate you. Don't you think you're losing everything to please her? She pulled back, as if my words were too sharp. You don't understand, Marina, she said, almost whispering. She can't be like you. I'm just trying to support her. I felt a little annoyed. Is that why you're hiding it? Are you hiding it from me? Am I nothing to you? Do you think I don't understand that you always choose her? Mom looked at me in surprise. There was something in her eyes that I couldn't immediately decipher, not shame, but rather fear. You don't know what really happened. I could explain everything to you, but you always blame me. You don't understand. You wouldn't understand. Her voice trailed off with every word, and I could feel her confidence melting away. I came closer and said softly, "Do you think I'll never know? Do you think your secrets will remain hidden? You don't want me to know the truth about how you control us all, do you?" Mom closed her eyes, as if trying to avoid answering. She didn't want to admit that her mask had slipped off a long time ago. She thought she could control everything, but I was ready to destroy her fragile world. "You don't have to do this. You don't understand what you're dealing with," she whispered. But I heard her, and I knew that her weaknesses would be my allies. I got up and, without saying another word, left the room. I felt a cold certainty creep into my chest. Mom was ready to play her game, and I was ready for her rules. That night, I was alone again. The whole day was like a long dream, in which I became more and more convinced that her every weakness was my chance. My game was gaining momentum, and now that I knew about Alia, about Mom, about Alexei, I could move on. I felt more and more that this wasn't just revenge. It's not just a desire to destroy them. I was starting to see how they were all manipulating me, using their weaknesses and secrets to get everything they needed. And now I began to understand, there are no innocent people in this game. They were all guilty in one way or another. I looked out the window, where the darkness was spreading, and I felt something dark and powerful pulling at me. With every step they took, with every secret they revealed, I became more and more a part of it. What will happen next? How far am I willing to go? I was sitting in the silence of my house, where everything now seemed so familiar and at the same time alien. It's like I've become a stranger in my own life. Every day I became more and more immersed in this world of manipulation and secret blows. I felt like my relationship with my family had become strained, but I couldn't stop. It was too late to stop. Now everything I did seemed justified to me. Every action, every step is my way to control the situation, to regain the power that they took away from me for so long. First I put pressure on Alia, then on Mom, and now it's the latter's turn. Alexei. He felt that his life was starting to crumble, but he still continued to think that he was in control of it. He thought he could fix everything, that everything would be the same as before, but he was wrong. This time, I was in the game not as a victim, but as a hunter, and now I was going to catch him. I prepared everything carefully, as if I were preparing a trap, and this time I didn't leave any traces. He thought he was in control, but he didn't know that I'd already gotten what I needed. The next day, I sent Olga and Mom regular messages, without giving them time to think. They were so dependent on me that now they couldn't get out. I told them what I needed for the final victory, one more step, and their lives would be mine. I also reminded Alexei about the same addiction, about how I could ruin his life if he continued to play with me. But this time I also gave him a chance. He had to choose whether to stop everything or continue in the same spirit. When I met him the next day, his face had been changed. He was nervous and irritated, couldn't figure out what was going on, but I saw that he realized that the game was over. He tried to justify himself, tried to have a dialogue again, as before, but I was no longer listening to him. I was above that. I was in a position of strength. "I'll send you all your favorite photos," I told him calmly, "and then you'll realize that your life will never be the same again. You can't leave me, Alexei. You've been my prisoner all this time." He was silent, knowing that now, at this moment, his secret had been revealed, and I was deciding what to do about it. That night, I sat and thought about everything that had happened. I've watched what I once thought of as a family crumble. And now I realized that everything I had done was part of the game. But the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. I lost more in this game than I expected. My revenge, my desire for revenge, put on me a mask that hid me. I couldn't get rid of the feeling that at some point I had become a part of what I hated so much. Maybe I'm not the best person. Maybe I've lost more than they have. But was my revenge justified? When I looked at the world through the dark glasses of revenge, I began to doubt my decision. And so, I was sitting on my couch, feeling the realization creep up on me. I've ruined their lives, but what's going to happen to me? Did I do everything right? Revenge changed me, and now I couldn't figure out if this game was worth it.